what's going on, y'all? T-Bob here.
And Jake as well.
And you're about to watch a little OTB LSU.
We're going to give you all the latest, greatest between LSU football, baseball, women's basketball, softball, and everything in between.
Bottom line, if you want to talk Tigers, keep it locked, subscribe, like it, and we hope you enjoy it.
Jace LeJeune of Gridiron Football. Jace, what's going on?
Nothing much, Taylor. Thanks for having me on, my man.
Absolutely. Jace, you were at practice yesterday. It was kind of the first practice the media's been to this week. What were your biggest takeaways from the most recent practice?
I mean, really not that much. I mean, so far we've had access probably to about 5 or 6 practices. And we've seen really the coaches really interacting with these players, because for spring, it's really a point where it's more about teaching and coaching the fundamentals. And it's really good at this point to see the new coaches coming in, and a lot of them are new coaches, but they're familiar faces. You know, like Blake Baker returning, Corey Raymond, Bo Davis, guys like that. They come back and coach some of these guys. So that's what I'm really keeping my eye on is just them interacting with the players and how they interact with the players. And, you know, of course, Joe Sloan, you know, working his new role as the OC. So seeing those coaches working with those players has been really good to see.
Speaking of those coaches, the defensive staff is almost entirely new faces from a year ago. What have you kind of seen from those coaches? What's the vibe like around the defense? Because I mean, it needs to be revamped in a big way.
You're absolutely right. And the coaches have on that side of the ball specifically, they've been very active. I mean, Blake Baker, I feel like you put a helmet and shoulder pads on Blake Baker right now, I think he can go in with those guys. He's been very active and really showing them how to do the drills, just really being active with those guys. And Corey Raymond's been very vocal. Bo Davis, I mean, you can hear him from pretty much across practice communicating with these guys. So those coaches have been hands-on, and they've been really communicating their point to those guys. So they're making sure that they're teaching multiple different ways. And I've really liked what I've seen from the defensive staff, from what we were able to gather.
As far as the defense goes, let's stick there with that side of the ball. I mean, Brian Kelly the other day said that Major Burns is in a new role. It's at that star position, which is kind of a glorified nickel, what it sounds like as far as Blake Baker goes. So he's going to be in a new role. We got a lot of young DBs. Obviously, Ashton Stamps and Javian Toviano, they're taking all the reps. Outside of those guys, I mean, are there any young DBs you could see stepping up in this group?
Yeah, and I actually like really the depth really behind them, because, I mean, Ashton Stamps, Javian Toviano at this point, especially Ashton Stamps, he was kind of an afterthought from fall camp, but he was one of those guys that was like really a big winner really through fall camp. I say a guy to keep an eye out for in the secondary is Deshawn McBride. Now, this is a name not a lot of people really heard about yet, but he is a safety. He is a 4-star prospect from Denham Springs, and I really like this guy. When we had access to a full day of practice a couple Saturdays ago, he really stood out. I mean, he's long, 6'3", 6'4", over 200 pounds, has really good ball skills. And he's been able to go one-on-one up against bigger receivers, even bigger tight ends. He went up against Kamorian Tempton one time, one-on-one in practice, and shut him down. So I like his length, and I like his ability to attack the football, because he's played a lot of wide receiver as well at Denham Springs. So Ashton Stamps was obviously a guy when he was a freshman going through fall camp last year that everybody kept an eye on, and he played a whole lot last year. Well, Deshawn McBride could certainly be that type of player, and it's just a name to keep an eye out for Tiger fans. I also really like P.J. Woodland at cornerback. He's another freshman that's continued to really look the part. Jair Brown, and then it's really good to see J.K. Johnson. I mean, missed the whole year last year working the drills, and it seemed like he's coming back to speed with everything. And if he comes back fully healthy, then it gives us this group a lot more depth.
You know, you were not the first person to tell me to look out for Deshawn McBride. It seems like he's making a lot of plays out there. And look, Major Burns moving to that star role is a prime opportunity for a guy like McBride, because he's going to be at that safety spot, and it's really wide open. I mean, you got Jordan Gilbert coming in. Sage Ryan's kind of moving back there. Ryan Yates was a younger guy that played last year, but that spot's wide open, and a lot of people have told me to keep an eye out for Deshawn McBride. Jace, I want to switch real quick to the offensive side of the ball. You were talking about Joe Sloan moving into that OC position. He's a guy that already has familiarity with Garrett Nussmeier. by being the QB coach from a year ago. What have you seen in the interaction of those guys? I mean, what's the comfortability between Garrett Nussmeier and Joe Sloan?
It's a lot because, like you mentioned, Taylor, even though Joe Sloan is the OC, he's been there with Brian Kelly since the beginning. And he's been the quarterback coach this entire time. So I feel like even though Joe Sloan is the OC, it's technically a different role for him. He's still working every day in practice with the quarterbacks, with Garrett Nussmeier, with A.J. Swan, with Ricky Collins, and Colin Hurley. So he's working with these guys every single day. And just having that familiarity with Garrett Nussmeier, with Joe Sloan, being there the last couple of years, it really helps. And I think really helps both guys. You can see both of them have really been clicking together from what we're able to gather at practice. And Garrett Nussmeier has really approached his job from what we're able to see as he's the number one guy, and he's doing all the right things. He said all the right things to us as well, being that guy. And, anticipate a big year for the Nuss Bus this year.
As far as the guys behind Garrett Nussmeier go, you mentioned it. A.J. Swan, the Vanderbilt transfer, Ricky Collins, Colin Hurley, their early enrollee. What have you seen from those guys? What's kind of the rotation? Because they're battling it out for QB2.
It is a battle. It's really been back and forth. One day when we have access to practice, it's A.J. Swan taking the second-team reps. And then another day we come in, it's Ricky Collins. And sometimes in the same day, they rotate back and forth. So you already know what you got in Garrett Nussmeier, and he's the guy coming in. But really behind him, that's going to be the question. In case something were to happen with Garrett Nussmeier, who you're going to fall back on. And that was really a good luxury to have the last couple of years, because if something happened to Jaden Daniels, you knew what you had in Garrett Nussmeier. Now, who's going to be that guy behind him? It's been really good competition. Now, A.J. Swan has had experience starting in the SEC, so that's really good, and that's a big reason why Brian Kelly went out and got him from Vanderbilt. And the Ricky Collins, he's just got a little bit more upside. It's just trying to be more consistent out of him. But as far as his ability and his talent, it's off the charts. So it's going to be really fun to see those two guys battle. And he does have experience because in the offense and the structure of the offense. So that's given Ricky Collins a leg up too over AJ. But this is going to be a tight battle. And I firmly believe that this is going to be a battle, right until the end of fall camp.
Jace, as far as who those quarterbacks are throwing to, we know that you're replacing 2 first-round receivers in Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. Obviously, Kyron Lacey and Chris Hilton are the veteran guys in that room. It seems like their spots are kind of solidified, but the spot that everyone's been kind of watching in spring practice is that number 3 receiver spot. Sometimes it's been Kyle Parker. Sometimes it's been Aaron Anderson. C.J. Daniels is a guy you brought in as a big-time transfer. What do you kind of see with the receiver rotation?
Yeah, you obviously know what you got in those two guys, and Kyron Lacey and Chris Hilton. And by the way, Kyron Lacey has really taken on that wide receiver 1 role, and he's been, as you can see, I know a lot of Instagram clips, Twitter clips as well that they're able to post. LSU's able to post. You're able to see some of the leaping catches Kyron Lacey has made, and it's just about the talent's always been there for him. It's just about being consistent, catching the football. Had some drops last year, but his ability, he has that ability to be that one guy. And really, everybody loves what they've been seeing in the football office and football ops with Kyron Lacey and Chris Hilton. But really behind those guys, Brian Kelly even told us he has 7 receivers that he really likes that can all play. So Kyle Parker's obviously a name that you brought up. And really, they just love his technique and just love the type of talent that he is. And we've seen him also return punts too. So he can be a guy that returns punts and makes an impact on special teams. But, yeah, you have Kyle Parker, Aaron Anderson. You get him 100% healthy because that was a big thing for him last year. Wasn't healthy last year. So if you get him 100% healthy, ready to go, he is definitely a touchdown waiting to happen. And then you mentioned the 2 transfers, right? C.J. Daniels, Xavier Thomas. Xavier Thomas, they brought him in to be a punt returner, change the game in that aspect as well. And they love C.J. Daniels. I like him as well. He's big. He's physical. He just looks the part. You can tell why he was a 1,000-yard receiver at Liberty. So this is a deep group. Now it's going to be interesting to see who really separates themselves as the third guy. But you have 4 or 5 different guys that you can rely on right now. And we haven't mentioned the tight ends. I think this year you're going to see really the freshman version of Mason Taylor. which he really exploded off onto the scene. I think he's going to be a guy that really holds tight end room with Kamarian Tempton, Mac Markway, and then obviously you have the 5-star coming in and trade as Green later in the fall. I mean, Brian Kelly, they're going to use the tight ends, I think, this year just because some inexperience at the wide receiver position just coming in. I think LSU's going to be able to use a lot of 12 personnel and use some of those tight ends.
Jace LeJeune with the Gridiron Football joining us right now. Jace, before I get you out of here, you were at LSU Pro Day. Obviously, Malik Neighbors, kind of the big winner of that Pro Day. But outside of him, what did you see? Was there a guy that really helped their case?
Yeah, I think there's some guys. Obviously, Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors really stole the show. But there's been other guys I feel like they've helped their draft stock. I mean, I thought Mekhi Wingo moved really well and did a lot of really good things. And when he was doing the 3-cone and the shuttle, he looked really well. And when you go and look at Omar Spates, he had the most bench press reps. He had over 30 reps that he was able to do. Ran a 4.6 40. So I think Omar Spates helped himself a little bit as well. And then Andre Sam ran a 4.53, where he was pretty impressive for a guy from his story, right, coming in, as a former walk-on coming in, and transferred from East State. And so it was really good to see that. So some of those guys had a pretty good pro day. Obviously, they were overshadowed by some of the bigger stars, but I felt like overall, I mean, just depth-wise, I thought it was a really good pro day overall for the LSU Tigers.
Wow, Jake, what incredible takes.
I mean, those guys, they're just the best.
I think so. And if you think so, again, hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications when we post every single day here on OTB LSU.